Hi everyone, I'm Derek Belanger, and in this video we're going to consider a fictitious technology challenge that's very much based on real life. And through thinking about it, we'll try and spin up our problem solving and PowerShell skills. So the scenario in mind today is, let's say we have a firewall rule that's permitting lots of traffic, a lot of necessary things, but it's just way too more open than is really appropriate, right? Like maybe we have like lots of source and destination networks, maybe the same, source and destination networks are the same, um, or the services that are allowed, just any, right? And so there's a lot of things that are being permitted in there that need to continue to be permitted, but we kind of want to break that big rule we have that's, allowing everything down into smaller, more appropriate chunks, smaller little rules that are easier for us to make sense of, to track in the future through logging, and for security reasons, right? So what we would see in our firewall log, or if we exported it, which is what we have here, an exported firewall log, is like a bunch of fields, right? And so we basically, whether you were looking at it through the UI or through logs, you'd have something like this. And so when we look at this, there's like good stuff in here, date and time, in interface, out interface, that could help us be informed about zones, right? Because you might also be selecting zones for your firewall rules. Obviously, IPsec is going to be a VPN zone. XFRM, I'll just tell you on a Sophos device that is also a VPN. We also have source IP, destination port, and protocol. So I already mentioned that in interface and out interface would help us make zone selections, right? But we have all of this information in here, and we have like thousands and thousands. I think there's like 8,000 rows in here, right? So there's tons of data. But for us as humans, when we look at it, we can't stare at this, this spreadsheet or our firewall UI logging and figure out what to do to make rules from this, right? It's just too much information. And a lot of it repeats over and over and over again, right? Because a client will make more than one connection and then it'll just be logged many times, or many clients will make a similar kind of connection. And so it's really hard to parse down information just looking at it like this. But that's our job, right? We want to take this information that we have and figure out what's being allowed and make rules appropriate for what traffic exists, right? So how do we do that? Right? Like stop and think about that. I am going to try and help answer that, but it's really useful to think about how to decide what approach we'd take in solving this. So think about it for a minute. This is your job, right? You have this information. Like, where would you start? What do you think? We know in and out interfaces are going to tell us zone information, right? What does source IP tell us? Obvious, right? Tells us where traffic is coming from. Destination IP tells us like where it's going. And destination port tells us the application or the service that's being served to the clients, right? So if we are able to make like a destination IP, destination port combination and find out what client IPs reach out to those servers and applications, then we have like a solid foundation of making rules, right? But clearly we have that information here, but we need some way of filtering it so that it starts to make sense. So what do you think? Would it be useful to make a list of all of the destination ports? The unique destination ports, right? What would that tell us? Well, that'd tell us all of the kinds of application activity that are occurring on the network, right? If we can then pair those application types with the destination IPs, then we know which servers are serving that type of application. Make sense? So let's start in doing some PowerShell to try and make our log file do that for us. Okay, so because we have that log file as a CSV, what we'll do is we'll import it into PowerShell. So we'll say log variable is going to be equal to import CSV, path is going to be fwlog.csv. That's the name of the file that we were just looking at, opened in Excel. Okay, so now let's take a quick look at what's inside log. And we'll do select select object first 5, and we'll format table. Okay, so we see now we've kind of made the same thing that was in Excel in PowerShell, which you're probably like, okay, how useful is that? It wasn't useful in Excel. Why is it useful in PowerShell? Well, we'll talk about that. Okay, so we see that we have the contents in there, right? And so remember, what was our first objective? Was to try and find out all of the kinds of network activity that occur. So we want to list all of the unique destination ports. Okay, so how can we do that? So we don't really show in this, when I formatted table here, it doesn't show all the properties, they just don't fit. But let's try and make some commands that will help us list ports. So we'll do log again, log G, and let's see what happens when we just say, hey, show only the DST port property. Okay, so it did exactly what it sounded like it would do when I described it, right? It listed all of the objects in there, all 8,000 rows, the destination port from each of those rows. But that's not helpful yet either, right? It's just another impossibly long list. So what we want to do is make it so that we find only the unique instances of ports, right? So what we can do is we can do pipe select object and do property. No, I want to do unique, right? Yeah. Oh my gosh, we have a short list of applications now, right? These are the ports that are in all of that data. All of a sudden, we have a list of all the applications that we're running. Okay, it's not sorted, so it's a little hard to look at. Can we sort this? Yeah, we can. Sort object. I'm going to do this guy. Oh, yeah, we need to do casting. And then it goes like that. Oh, you know, Matthew Doust, he just recently did a Posh Bytes. He does a video series Posh Bytes that talks more about this sort object using an expression-based sorting. And it's necessary. You should watch his video because it's great. It's going to explain it more about it and better than I do. But just if we do sort object without this expression, you'd think it would still sort, right? But it doesn't, right? And the reasons for all of that are in his video. So go check it out. I see you, Matthew Doust. Thank you. And thanks for reminding us all about how that works and teaching us. Okay, so we're going to go back and we're going to do the sort object with our expression. All right, so now when we look at this, we can also start to recognize that some of these ports all belong to similar kinds of servers, right? Maybe you know, maybe you don't know. It doesn't matter. I'll just say, because if you didn't know what these ports are for, what you could do is just go to AI and ask, right? Asking for AI for information, totally legit. Just try and do the thinking for yourself, but let AI get you information quickly if that's useful. So Some of these ports, right, we can see belong to certain kinds of activity. 88 Kuberos, I think, right? 123, NTP, 389, can't remember something. That's also something Active Directory. 853, I think, is also Active Directory. 49, 59, these are probably RPC, so those are also Active Directory, right? So like a bunch of these can probably be grouped together because Active Directory servers, which are present in this log, they have many kinds of application or ports that they serve on. So let's make a grouping then of our Active Directory ports. AD ports is going to equal the things that we were just talking about. We'll say 88, 123, 135, 389. And if I misremembered some of these and I'm putting not Active Directory stuff in here, you can curse me out in the comments or whatever. I'm not expecting myself to remember it perfectly. Okay, so we're going to say 389. We're not going to do these 4900 and above, just because we can be sure that they're going to, those ephemeral ports will be used by servers that are also using these other ports. So we'll just use that logic here. 853, is that right? Can't remember what that one is either, but I'm pretty sure it's an AD. Okay, so we'll just say that's our list of AD ports. And okay, so now we have a list of ports. We've identified some of them as Active Directory. Now we want to find out what servers are Active Directory servers by parsing our log. Doesn't that sound cool? I mean, you can do that, right? Okay, so let's see how you can do that. So we're going to take our log file again. I'm going to send it to what? Where object, right? Where object. And we'll use the new PowerShell 7.5, or I don't know where they introduced it, but the new syntax that's super sweet. And it's DST port in, and then our variable that we made, right? AD ports. And so this would give us a list of all connections that are Active Directory connections. And so we'll just say pipe to select object, object first 10. Okay, typo. I don't know how I did that. Yes, it is an array, but it's still a variable. So use a $sign. Okay. Oh, and you know what? Let's make that a table. Okay. Hey, this is starting to look cool, right? We'll say time, time, comma, source port. No, IP. Sorry, I'm a little crazy. All right, source IP, DST IP, and DST. Gotta quote all this stuff. DST port. Whoa! Look at that. Okay, so we're starting. So this would be a huge list. It's just we took the top 10, right? So how do we now make this so that it's a list of just the unique servers IP addresses that serve any of these Active Directory ports? Okay, so we'll go back to our command that we had, and we don't need to do this formatting anymore. So we're going to select object, and we're going to say unique. Oh, we're going to say property. And I'll do that first. Just for we could do it in either order, but is going to be test IP. And we're going to say only the unique ones. And magic, we have a list of Active Directory servers. I love that, right? Isn't that cool? So now we know what servers are serving Active Directory, right? So we could actually take that and make a list, and we can start to do a couple of things. One is, if we don't have an Active Directory object in our firewall for those services, we could make a service object, right? Then we could make individual server objects from this list, whatever makes sense for them, and then put them in a collection or a group as the target of a rule that allows the Active Directory service object that you created, right? Okay, so that would be part of what we want to do to make our firewall rule, but we need to know the source as well, right? So how would we do that? So we could do the same thing, but we would say that we did to find the servers, right? Where we say property is destination IP, what we could say is source IP unique. Okay, but we have a different problem here, right? Which is we have like lots of IP addresses communicating with the Active Directory servers, which totally makes sense, right? Because like client server, there's going to be like, relatively way more clients than there are servers. So it might be that what we really want to do is find the subnet for all of the clients that reach out to the servers, right? And just say, hey, these subnets are allowed Active Directory ports to the Active Directory servers. Does that make sense? All right, so how do we do that though? Like, we made a list of the IP addresses. How do we change that to being like a list of subnets instead? Well, I think what we can do is send that string that we already created, the command we already created, to for each object. And then we'll do an expression in here that will let us change each of the rows that is output by the commands that come before the for each, right? So we'll say it's going to be $_ dot, what are we doing? Oh, we're going to do substring. Oh, you know what I think we need to do? The IntelliSense was helping me there, right? Because AD ports, yeah, because we were working with the object. So let's do this slightly different. And before I go into the for each, we'll just do this and we'll say src IP. Okay, yeah, and you see how the output looks the same? So we're not doing unique. That's correct. So there's way more. So then what we can do is pipe this to select object unique, and we should get a shorter list. Yeah. Okay, but it still has all those different IP addresses in it. And then we want to make those into subnet, which we will then do for each, no. For each object, and then our expression, which is going to be just a string manipulation, and it's going to be substring. And we're going to then say start at the beginning, and then we're going to make another method, which is going to be last index of, and it's going to be decimal. Now I got to get all of the right characters in there. Yeah. Oh, did we do unique on that? Oh, we did, but I did it in the wrong place. Okay. So we do our string manipulation. We get a list of partial IP addresses that we will then look for unique instances of. Let me do select object unique. And so then those 16.2, 16.6, 16.9, 16.10, yeah. So we have a list now, right, of all of the subnets that reach out to our Active Directory service. Now, it doesn't, what I just did does also assume that everything is like a /24, right? Which may or not be the case. Often it will be whatever. You do need to be careful about making decisions that, actually reflect your environment. But point being, right, like we've kind of done this, right? We kind of like looked at a firewall log that is impossible for us to read. We quickly made a list of all the applications that are on it. We learned how to use that list of applications to identify servers that serve that application and how to use that to find out what clients access it. And of course, if we also referenced the interface information, we could also make zone selections just by taking a firewall log, importing it to PowerShell, and doing some simple filtering. I hope you found that interesting. I hope it helped to percolate your problem-solving enthusiasm. And I hope you have as much fun with tech sometime this week as I did sharing this with you today. Thanks.